Joining us now to discuss, Oklahoma Senator James Inhofe. Senator Inhofe, how will these new developments affect President Trump's upcoming summit with Kim Jong-un?
Oh, I think it's just great, Dagan. We've been looking at this and waiting for this moment for a long time. And by the way, I happened to be in South Korea back when Kim Jong-un demonstrated, as November 28th, that he could hit an American city. And you remember the response that we had from our president. It wasn't the mushy response we would have gotten from Obama. He said, yeah, and we've got a button too. Ours is bigger than theirs. Ours works, theirs doesn't. If they try that, we'll blow them out of the sky. Words to that effect. Well, what happened right after that? In a matter of hours, Kim Jong-un called South Korea and told them, we've changed our mind. We're going to send athletes down to the Winter Olympics. And it's been going better every day since then. I honestly believe this president is doing something that's nothing short of a miracle. And it was really topped off at 2 o'clock this morning when the folks came back in.
Senator, hi, James Freeman with the Wall Street Journal. I want to pick up on that. You're looking at the president's tweeting as a strength. Most people, or a lot of people in the media, kind of portray it as a weakness. I don't really expect the Georgetown School of Foreign Service to start teaching people how to write taunts about foreign leaders, but you're saying this is actually key to setting the table to negotiate here.
Well, you know, first of all, you're with a publication that's been very fair to him. Most of the rest of them have not been. So looking at it through his eyes, he has to communicate to the American people. He doesn't trust the media to accurately portray what he's trying to do. Now, you stop and think of what he's accomplished. Just yesterday, with the lowest unemployment rate in memory, all these things that are happening right now, he's accomplishing. And he can't get that out, in all fairness to him. He's got to figure out a way, and he didn't. I know the media doesn't like it. They don't like the idea that someone can go, even the President of the United States, can go straight to the people and tell them what he's doing. Frankly, I like the idea.
But, Senator, to raise the issue, we've heard from the right and the left, whether you're red or blue or purple or polka dotted, that people are skeptical about North Korea and Kim Jong-un based on past agreements. 8 times we've had agreements that didn't lead to denuclearization, and here we are facing an even more aggressive North Korea.
Yeah, and I chaired the committee that we had our intelligence in, Dan Coates and the rest of our intelligence groups. I had the great respect for them, but I said at that time, I want you to write it down. This guy is communicating to Kim Jong-un in a different way than we ever have before. And if you look at the results that are coming in from him and things that you would not expect to happen, this hasn't happened before. So, you know, let's just wait and see if it does. I mean, he immediately came back and said, all right, we want to participate in the Winter Olympics. We want to negotiate with you and have a meeting with you. And I'd like to have a meeting with the President of the United States. Now it's set up. Now, I don't know, they haven't announced when and where, but it's set up that he's going to be having that communication with the President. So I just think that they've communicated. He knows how to talk to terrorists. He doesn't back down. And he has reestablished America, in my opinion, as the leader of the free world over there. It doesn't go unnoticed.
Senator, I want to move on to this comment. California Congressman Maxine is stepping up her calls for impeachment of President Trump. This time she's slamming the commander-in-chief over his decision to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal and try to negotiate a better one. In a tweet, quote, here's what Maxine said. Trump, further isolating the United States, thinks he knows better than our negotiators and all of our global allies who agreed to the Iran deal. How long do we have to suffer his gigantic ego and narcissistic behavior? Impeachment is the only answer. Senator, I'll just point out one thing. This was not a treaty because President Obama could not get people in Congress to vote for it, that it's not binding by law. And I would like her to speak to the families of the victims of Iranian terrorism while we're sending them, north of $1 billion in cash in the middle of the night.
Well, when you stop and read, by coincidence, I happened to be with Netanyahu in October when the first time the president made the statement that he's going to get out of this treaty. Now, of course, I was very much opposed to getting in the first place. But I was there, and I've never seen Netanyahu rejoicing as much. And as he clearly said then, and he said again last week, he said, you know, they agreed to do certain things, to stop the inspection of the non-declared sites, to stop the advanced centrifuges, remove all the sunset provisions, all these things that they said, Iran said that they would do, they haven't done. And I think that, you know, you have to stand up and say, you know, you agreed to this, you didn't do it, this is the alternative. I think you did the right thing.
Senator, great to see you. I call that a Trump-induced psychotic break by some.
Well, one last thing. If all these things that this guy has accomplished, rebuilding the military, doing away with the regulations that have been putting America out of business, all of these things, if that's ground for impeachment, I'm sure glad that Maxine Waters is not a majority. And by the way, I don't very often agree with Pelosi. In this case, I do. And she said, all this talk of impeachment is a distraction. Yep. Good for you, Nancy.
Senator, thank you so much.